What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. DMZ missions are what we do over here, and specifically today we are closing the loop on a trend which we started at the beginning of season 2 of DMZ on this channel here, where we saw a massive reshuffle of all of the missions. Today we are looking at all of the tier 1 missions for Black Mouse, which is most likely the last tier 1 missions that you will unlock due to the fact of having to progress through tier 2 of Legion and White Lotus simply just to unlock these. Now these are still relatively easy as tier 1 missions go, so I'll have a short section for each one of these, essentially detailing some tips and tricks to get you through these super fast and onto tier 2. First up, we have Vehicular Homicide, which is essentially a 3-part mission that expects you to go to 3 different areas on the map and destroy specific kinds of vehicles there. Now, in the first case, we are wanting to blow up 4 of the armored AQ reinforcement patrol trucks near the oasis west of Tarak. Now, the oasis that they're talking about is essentially to the left of Tarak area at the top here, where you can see some water features. So driving a vehicle anywhere around that water, parking it off and blowing it up, will start seeing progress on this mission. And of course, the exact vehicles that you need to be blowing up are these armored technicals which the rebels drive and essentially reinforce areas after you've been hanging around for a while. Oftentimes the easiest way for you to just get these vehicles to spawn is just to fight in an area and kill AI, and these will come, you know, sort of like driving into the area. Nonetheless, 4 of these get you done with the mission and on to step 2. Now step 2 expects you to blow up 6 cargo trucks in Said. Said is of course the area that's kind of like in the middle and to the left of the map here, next to Hafid Port. And the good thing here is that generally we have at least 2 to 3 trucks that spawn in this area by default, so you won't have to ferry too many in here, but anywhere within the Said city will work. So right next to the mall within the city, blow up 6 of these trucks and that gets you onto part 3. Part 3 wants you to blow up 4 boats in Sawar Village. Sawar Village sitting all the way to the south and also left of the map. Now basically same thing as what we saw with the trucks. This area already spawns some boats for you. These rubber ducks will be essentially parked off in the village somewhere, 2 to 3 of them, and you can blow those up to get credit for this mission. However, the brand new jet skis which were introduced in season 2 also count for this. So if you see a jet ski, blow that up, and as soon as you've blown these up, you are done with this mission. Coming in second place, we have a mission called On Rails. Now, with the introduction of season 2, we got an extra train added into the map. By default, we had the OG original cargo train that essentially moves clockwise around the map. You will now notice that there's also a passenger train which moves counterclockwise. All that this mission expects you to do is to be physically on both of these trains and kill 8 people each from them. Now these can be humans or they can be AI, but as soon as you get 8 kills from both of these trains, you will have mission completion on this and you'll be done and dusted. Coming in at number 3, we have Vintage Collection, which is actually a refresh of an old mission from season 1, specifically kind of like involving you to extract the same things but far less quantities. In the case here, you need 3 wine bottles or every derivative of that, so it can be old wine, dirty wine, fucked up wine, whatever, but as long as wine is in the word. And then you also need to get vintage wine, which is essentially the legendary version of these bottles, aka the yellow item. So I believe these are worth like 6,500, but you'll recognize them immediately because they're a different color when you loot them. Now you need to be extracting out of the map with this, aka leaving, and the best place really to find this is in Al Mazrah city. More specifically, you want the area that's generally underneath the UAV tower, so where you have all the cash registers inside, huge amount of fridges in there, and fridges equal wine bottles. And then you also have a Yum Yum Burger to the north as well as the south, and both of those also have a huge amount of fridges in the middle area of the Yum Yum Burger as well as in the kitchens in the back. Now through looking at these 3 locations, you should take no longer than 2 drops to find these. However, I can also advise you to go all the way to the south of the map. In Sarif Bay, you have that villa area. That villa also has a huge concentration of fridges, and you could also potentially come right there and get this done. Number 4 gives us a mission called Cargo Keeper, and I'm not gonna lie, this is probably the most difficult one out of the selection of 7 missions under tier 1 for Black Mouse. And that's simply due to the fact that this expects you to do a cargo delivery contract. Now there's 2 different versions of this. There's the land-based one where you get essentially an LTV with a gun on top, and then there's the water-based one where you get a patrol boat with the 2 guns, one on the front and one on the back. Now either one of these will work for this mission, and for the 2 steps here, on the first step you have to actually successfully complete the mission, aka you have to prime the contract, get into the vehicle, and then drive it to the designated area and have the cargo extracted by a chopper that's waiting for you there. The second part here expects you to fully repair and refuel whichever one of these 2 vehicles it is. So this is the thing that you should probably do first. As soon as you get this vehicle, simply pick the nearest service station, or in the case of a water vehicle, pick the nearest water service station and simply get it fueled up and fully repaired, and that will give you progress on the second part. Now the reason why I say this is most likely the more difficult one out of the 7 that we have in tier 1 is simply due to the fact that with season 2 they really increased the efficiency of this helicopter that is chasing you and trying to blow you up as part of the mission objective. This helicopter is a lot more accurate now and deals a lot more damage, and that coupled with the fact that in general vehicles take a lot more damage from enemy fire, it means that you will struggle to arrive at your destination without being filled with holes. So this actually took me like 3 attempts. I originally tried a water attempt, got really fucking blown up, and then did 2 more lands and essentially did this. Now this is exponentially easier if you have teammates that can man the gun while you drive, because they can actually shoot these choppers down. But if you're solo, don't attempt to stop and get onto a gun and shoot, because oftentimes the helicopter will simply hover above you and blow you up while you can't return fire. So try to use the surroundings to your advantage, duck and cover under things, and kind of like try to avoid as much of the fire as you can, and that should hopefully get you some success. Team Player is our number 5 mission, and this essentially expects you to basically interact with other human beings. And what I mean by that is, in the game of course you can ask other people to join you. Now specifically on PC, I hold Alt in and then I select the option and basically ask other players to join me, whichever that is for you on console. But you have to basically ask other players to join you, and you have to do this 2 times. Now the good news here is, even if other players deny joining your team, as long as they get the invite, this gives you progress on this mission. So the best advice I can give you is simply to find an area where you know other players are, either by knowing that you can see them chatting, or maybe they're shooting stuff but you know there are other human beings around there, and then simply to spam this. Either you'll get a brand new team that you can finish the objective with, or they're going to deny you and you're still going to get progress on the mission. But once you've done this twice, you're done and dusted. Number 6 is the Speed of Sound, and this mission is fairly straightforward, basically expecting you to kill 10 enemies that are essentially being highlighted by a UAV activation. You also have to kill all 10 of these enemies with 1 UAV activation. So when you are moving towards a UAV tower, don't clear the area out first. Try to leave as many enemies alive as possible, and then as soon as you activate the UAV tower, you basically have 2 minutes that you need to kill 10 enemies. Now bear in mind that if you shoot enemies that are too far away and are not being hit by the waves of the UAV tower, you might see a problem where this is not counting progress to you. But as long as you are killing enemies that are essentially being highlighted red on your radar by the UAV tower, and you kill 10 of them, that'll be done with this mission and on to the last one. Then, as mentioned, getting us to the final mission for Black Mouse tier 1, it's called Labs Investigation. Now first and foremost, this is a 2-parter, and the first thing you should be concentrating on is finding yourself a Building 21 access key. Now Building 21 is the second area that was added into the second map that was added into DMZ all the way back in Season 1 Reloaded, and it's basically an extremely small map with a maximum of 12 players, aka 4 teams of 3. And this is a very PvP focused experience. There is no map in the area, so you could very easily get lost if it's your first or your second or your third time at this location. And basically there's a weapons case to extract here, but the idea is to move through the map and get to a lift at the end and successfully extract. That is your only way out of this map. Now, generally speaking, this map is really tough on people coming in solo unless you are very competent at PvP, because most likely you will be facing three players in a team at a time, possibly even 2 teams, getting caught in the middle of that. Nonetheless, the mission itself does not actually expect you to have to deal with any enemies. So if you know where you're going and if you know what you're doing, you will be able to do this solo, very much like I did it in the background here. But let's go through the steps here. So first of all, you need to infill into Building 21. That means you need a Building 21 access card. Now, there's many different ways of getting this. You can get them from supply boxes on the maps. You can get them from commanders that you kill that drop them. And you can also buy them specifically from certain buy boxes, although for a huge amount, I believe it's 40k or something like that. However, once you have this card, you can then gain access to Building 21, but also with the caveat that Building 21 is generally only available over weekends. So essentially starting on around Friday, and I think going to like Monday morning or something like that, is the only time that you can actually go into Building 21. So also keep that in mind in terms of timing. Now that's our access sorted out. And as soon as you get into Building 21, that's going to complete the first step for you. Now comes the more difficult part, and that is you need to be getting to the generator room. And since this map doesn't have a map, you're going to have to navigate by sight alone. Now, specifically when it comes to Building 21, imagine it as a building with 3 levels. The very bottom level is a parking garage, which makes up the middle of Building 21. Now, this is where you need to be going to. So within the map itself, find stairs and make sure that you are going all the way down to the bottom. Now, it is possible that you might already spawn on the bottom level, and in that case, you're already halfway there. Bottom line is make it to the bottom, make it to the first floor, because that is the floor that the generator room is on. Now, the other thing that you also need to bear in mind is timing. When this location starts, you have 13 minutes on the clock, and you need to wait until you have 11 minutes on the clock. More specifically, you want the lockdown to be lifted, because the area that you're trying to get into, the generator room, is actually locked up until 11 minutes being left on the clock. So the first 2 minutes you should kill some time either by looting or just hiding out or something like that. I suggest keeping a low profile if you are playing solo, and then once you get close to 11 minutes, you're ready to now make your push for the generator room. Now, if you walk around in this bottom area, the garage, you will notice that the 4 corners are essentially denominated D1, C1, A1, and B1. What you are looking for is A1 or B1, but for the sake of this example and in the footage that you're seeing in the background, I'm showing you A1. So you will approach A1, and as soon as you get to the main double doors, you will immediately turn right and then essentially move around a little area until you get to the generator room door. Now, once you pop this door open and go inside, you will immediately get credit for this, but do bear in mind that this room itself has some high-level AI in it that will want to murder you. But as soon as you get in here, that is going to be the mission done and dusted. So at this point in time, decide whatever you want to do. If you want to continue on playing, possibly engage other players, or if you want to make your way to the lift. But that is all you need to do to complete tier 1 for the Black Mouse faction, and that will get you onto tier 2. That also brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. Generally speaking, tier 1 for Black Mouse was fairly straightforward. Like I said, Cargo Keeper is a little bit of a stinker, and Labs Investigation forces you to go into Building 21. And if you're a player that has been avoiding Building 21 due to the fact that it's more PvP focused and forces you into engagements with other players, then that can be a little bit daunting. But in this case, I would absolutely advise you to just autofill with randoms or get some buddies to help you out, just so that you can make it to the generator room. You don't actually have to win the map, you don't have to actually extract the weapons case, and you don't even have to win any fights. You just need to make it to the generator room. That's going to give you the progress, and we can look forward to tier 2 later. Other than that, it's just super important to me that you have a fantastic morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are in the world. Until next video, fucking cheers.